Okay, let's do the thing. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Emily.
And this is
A Trial by
Podcast. So awkward. Okay.
That just made my day home so much better.
I feel like we start every episode just being like, I'm really tired today.
Oh my God.
But like, I'm especially
kicked my
fucking
ass.
tired today.
Dude, I have like a tired headache like right here. You ever get those where
Dude.
your eyes just fucking hurt?
Yes,
That's
literally
what I
today.
have.
My right eye, I was like, I feel like it's going to pop out of my skull.
Same.
Because work was just kind of stressful. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm dehydrated, but I was chugging water all day.
Same.
And I literally just felt like my eyeball was going to pop out of my skull. And yeah, now it's luckily I'm feeling better. At least the headache. I'm feeling a little vommy though. A little vommy mommy.
Good thing you have your emotional support water bottle.
Yeah. At least we're filming. So if I throw up.
Is this still the same illness from what you were talking about?
I don't know. But I took some Zofran. So
Zofran.
hopefully I'll.
What does that do? Is that
It's
like a
like
tummy
anti-nausea.
thing? Oh.
So we'll see.
We'll see.
So today I am going to tell you about the still unsolved disappearance of sisters Diamond and Tionda Bradley. Diamond and Tionda were actually half-sisters through their mother Tracy, who gave birth to Tionda on January 20th, 1991. As a kid, Tionda loved the spotlight. She wanted to be a dancer when she grew up, so she was always putting on performances for friends and family. She was reportedly known to be like a sassy, spunky little girl and was super outgoing. And she especially loved being a big sister. So she had one older sister and two younger sisters. So she's the second oldest. And she always like loved taking care of her little sisters and helping her mom around the house and things like that. So Tionda's little sister Victoria was actually only a year younger than her. So playing with Diamond, who was the baby of the family and was 7 years younger than Tionda, was a lot more fun for her. So Diamond Yvette Bradley was born on November 25th, 1997. Now, Diamond was only 3 years old at the time of her disappearance. So her personality was just like, it was still forming and developing and just starting to show through to her family. But the family describes her as being more of a quiet and shy girl in comparison with Tionda, but always a really sweet little kid. Now, Tracy and her 4 daughters lived in the Lake Grove Village apartments in the Bronzeville neighborhood of the south side of Chicago. But as a single mom of 4, Tracy was lucky enough to have a mother who would often help her by having the girls over for sleepovers on a regular basis, and sometimes even for like an extended period of time, some of the girls would go stay at the mom's house. So it wasn't out of the ordinary on the night of July 5th, 2001, that Victoria and Rita, the oldest and the second youngest, so child 1 and child 3, they stayed at the grandmother's house that night while Diamond and Tionda stayed home with Tracy. So the next morning, July 6th, Tracy had to head into work at Robert Taylor Park, where she made lunch for kids attending the park summer camp that summer. Now, because her main responsibility was making the lunches, Tracy usually started work pretty early in the morning and would finish in the afternoon. So she wasn't there all day. It wasn't like a full 8-hour shift. She was usually done right around lunchtime. Everything was prepped. Okay. So without anyone to watch the girls, Tracy actually left 10-year-old Tionda in charge of watching 3-year-old Diamond while she was at work. There was no one watching the girls from most reports. That's what most reports tell us. Okay. I'll get into later some conflicting ideas about this, but it pretty much seems to me to be a fact that the girls were home alone. Okay. Now, this was not the first time that Tracy had done so. Like, Tionda had watched Diamond and the other little sister before. She, was used to taking care of the little girls while her mom was out. She's a single mom of 4. childcare is expensive. So now when people are talking about this case, there's a lot of criticism for Tracy online, like, you know, who would leave a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. But again, I just feel like we're not in her shoes. I feel like when I was 10, I did have an older brother who's a couple years older than me, but I definitely know that we would walk to school alone. We would be home alone. And, you know, she's a single mom with 4 kids. Childcare, again, is very expensive. And she's only gone for a few hours of the day. So let's just not lay into this mother on every news report that you read about the case, because it makes me crazy. Anyway, Tracy told police that Tionda knew the rules. The girls were not allowed to leave the apartment for any reason or open the door for anyone, no matter who it was. And as far as Tracy knew, Tionda had always abided by these rules. She had never left the apartment while her mom was gone. She had never let anyone into the apartment while her mom was gone. There was no reason for Tracy to really worry more than usual. Yeah. Now, on this particular morning, before Tracy went to work, her on and off again boyfriend had actually stopped by the Bradley home. Now, because the boyfriend has never officially been named a suspect in the investigation, I'm going to call him Jeff, which is not his real name.
Jeff should have been a suspect. He should have been the first suspect.
They look into Jeff. Pretty closely. But, you know, there hasn't been a ton of evidence.
What was his alibi?
Emily?
Am I getting ahead of myself?
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Sorry.
We gonna get there.
Sorry.
All right. So some reports say that Jeff arrived at the home around 3 a.m., while others say it was around 4:30 in the morning. But what we do know for sure is that he arrived early in the morning to spend some time with Tracy before he drove her to work between 6 and 6:30 a.m. Okay. Now, this case, it was super frustrating to research and like report on because... And I feel like I didn't realize in true crime before I started this podcast how much conflicting reporting there is. That like it blows my mind. And this case is like, I'm just going to give like a warning is I'm doing my best with, okay, where do I see, like there's time discrepancies, whichever one I see the most I use. But it's crazy. I mean, some people were saying he got there at 3 a.m., some people were saying he took her to work at 6. Some people were saying 7:30. All of this stuff.
He took her to work.
But he took her to work early in the morning. And we'll get into later some more like conflicting reporting that is a bigger deal than just what time they left the house and went to work. Now, sometimes the girls would go back to sleep for a bit after Tracy left for work. So she usually called home to check on them around 8 o'clock in the morning. But that morning, they didn't answer the phone. Now, she called twice more before 9 a.m., but still got no answer from either of them. But she wasn't really worried at all. She kind of just assumed that they were still sleeping. They were sleeping in, you know, they're on summer vacation. And Tionda, who was actually in summer school at the time, didn't have class that day. Now, as it got closer to lunchtime, though, work got a little bit busier for Tracy. So she didn't, you know, continue trying to call the girls. She kind of just figured, all right, I'll see them when I get home. It's only going to be a few hours from now. Now, again, there's some conflicting reporting on exactly what time Tracy arrived home. Some places say 11:30, some say 12:30. Not that it doesn't matter at all, but I think, you know, an hour discrepancy isn't that big of a deal. What
12:30, like in the middle of the day, like afternoon lunchtime.
Yeah. 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Now, what I saw reported most was that she arrived home a little bit before noon. But of course, when she walked into the apartment, she found that Tionda and Diamond were not there. Now, while searching the house for the girls or just any clue of where they could possibly be, Tracy found a note on the couch in the living room. The note, presumed to have been written by Tionda, stated that she and Diamond were going to walk to a nearby grocery store called Jewel Osco and then go play at the school playground. She didn't name which school, But it was likely the Doolittle Elementary playground, which was only 5 minutes from the family's apartment and was where Tionda was attending some summer classes that summer. So
What a cute name for a school.
Doolittle.
Yeah.
Doolittle Elementary. Now, Tracy immediately found this note very off-putting because while it kind of looked like Tionda's handwriting, she was certain in her gut that Tionda never would have written a note. She would have called her mom to ask. She would have called her mom's cell phone.
Right. She said, don't open the door for anyone, including leave.
And she's always followed the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how they communicated. Like, she's never had Tionda leave her a note before. And, you know, the girls know the mom's cell phone number and they call her on her cell phone when she's at work. So she just thought this was odd. And at this point, she's kind of starting to worry a little bit. And again, she stresses that she believes the girls never would have left the house when they were home alone without her.
Without her
She
permission.
really,
Yeah.
they followed the rules. They knew she wouldn't be gone long. They knew they would go do something when they got back. And they actually had plans that weekend to go camping. They were going to leave later that night because it was a Friday. Okay. So she just thought this was odd. So Tracy walked around and asked some of the neighbors if they had seen the girls, but no one remembered seeing them that morning at all. Now, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, Tracy also asked a neighbor to borrow $20 that she then used to buy some food at the Jewel Osco store at 12:21 p.m., which we know from the time stamp on the receipt. So this is the store that the note said that the girls were going to go to the store and then go to the playground. It's the same store.
Right.
So we're kind of assuming, okay, Tracy was going to look for the girls, but she was hungry. She borrowed the $20 while she was looking at the store for the girls. She got a snack while she was there. So presumably, she doesn't see the girls at the store. So she then calls friends and family, kind of, hey, have you seen the girls? Have you heard anything from them? But again, no one had any idea where they were. So Tracy and dozens of friends and family started driving around looking for them. Now, the only person that was close to the family that did not help in the search was Tracy's boyfriend, Jeff, who was reportedly off with another woman at the time.
Fucking Jeff.
That's his alibi, is he was with another lady. So
now he's in the doghouse twice.
So the group searched for the girls for almost 7 hours. Again, conflicting reports on the timing, but I think almost 7 hours.
Time.
But when they hadn't found the girls by about 6:30 p.m., Tracy called the Cook County Sheriff's Department to report them missing. She later explained to the media that the reason she had waited so long to call police was because she was afraid that the police would call Child Protective Services and that they might take the children away from her because she left them home alone. Okay. So she's kind of figuring, hoping, whatever, that the girls are fine. They're off somewhere. You know, I think in the back of her mind, maybe she's probably worried that that's not the case, but she doesn't want the girls taken from her.
Right.
And now you have to think too, because this is another thing she gets a lot of flack for. Like, people try to look at her as like, okay, this is suspicious. Why aren't you calling police immediately if it were me and my kids?
Right.
But you also have
it's not you or your kids. It was her and her kids.
Right. And, you know, her fears about like Child Protective Services possibly taking her kids away aren't unfounded. So police luckily took the case seriously from the jump. As soon as they got the call, they were on the look for these girls.
Well, that's unheard of.
I know.
I was expecting them to be like, well, it hasn't been 48 hours.
Yep, exactly. They immediately formed a massive search effort, which eventually became the largest manhunt to ever take place in Chicago at that time. The search began with dozens of officers and 2 canine units that scoured Bronzeville for any sign of the girls. They searched through yards, railroad tracks, dumpsters, beaches, vacant homes, anywhere the girls could possibly be. As the days went on, the search team grew from dozens of officers to hundreds. They went door to door asking for information on the girls. They searched large areas of land from the air via helicopters, and they had dive teams in the water. They even deployed horseback search teams. Now, as detectives looked for any hint of where the girls could possibly be, the most logical place to start was the note. So the note was turned over to the FBI for analysis to determine whether or not Tionda had actually been the one to write it.
That was going to be one of my questions, but I didn't want to ask it too early. Like, what, didn't her mom like notice the handwriting at all, or?
So this is what's funny is I can't find any comment from the mom on the handwriting besides the fact that she said, like, it looks like everyone agrees it looks like a child's handwriting.
Okay, but if I write something with my left hand, I look like a child writing too.
Right. So they did. Okay, so they turned it over to the FBI for analysis. And the FBI did determine that it was written by Tionda by comparing it to other like handwriting samples that they had from her. Okay. The Bradley family was shocked by this because from the beginning, they thought that the note had either been forged or that if Tionda was the one who penned the note, she must have been forced to do it and told exactly what to write. They explain that the reason they think this is because the spelling and the grammar in the note was absolutely perfect, which they believe would have been impossible coming from 10-year-old Tionda, who was actually signed up to attend summer school that year specifically because she was struggling with her spelling and grammar in English class.
Interesting.
I just feel like she's 10. Like, even a 10-year-old kid who's proficient in spelling and grammar, I don't know if they're going to write, like, a perfect note like that. So it's just, and I...
But, like, what were they doing then? Like, oh, you spelled here wrong, or, like...
Or they're telling her, okay, this is what you're going to write. And she's like, how do I spell that?
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I just feel like the family knows her. They know like how they also said it didn't match like how she speaks, like the way she speaks.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like her.
Like too formal.
So I don't know. I just feel like when the family says that is very convincing to me that they're like, I feel like they know. So, and I don't know that the police were necessarily arguing that. Like, I don't know that they were saying. It was
just another path they weren't trying to take. You know?
Right. So the family is also adamant, as I mentioned before, that Tionda never would have written a note in the first place. Instead, they believe that she would have called Tracy to ask for permission to leave the apartment. Interestingly, the day after the girls disappeared, Tracy's sister Faith asked Tracy if she had checked her voicemail in case the girls had left a message for her. But in all the madness, she hadn't thought to. So Faith, who was like in charge of the family's cellular plan, checked Tracy's voicemail for her and allegedly found a voicemail from Tionda.
Oh my God.
Now, according to Faith, the message was something along the lines of like, Mom, this is Tionda. Answer the phone. Jeff is at the door. Can I open the door? He wants to come in and take us to get a birthday cake.
Dude, I'm telling you.
So
I was cheating on my girlfriend's not a good alibi.
That's what I'm saying. So, and I haven't seen anything about like if this other woman confirmed that out. I assume she must have. Because that, you know, that's like all of the reporting says he's with this
I want to know
I don't know
how she confirmed that, though. Like, did she give an exact time and, like, evidence that he was there with her? Because, I mean, he could have paid her off, or she could have just been like, yeah, I saw him. Like, he could have went there after.
That's what's frustrating about this case is I could not find the answer to questions like that. There's a lot in this case that it's like, it feels like...
This was like in the morning. This wasn't at night. This was in the morning. Like,
this is in the morning.
Between whatever time she left. So, like, what, 5 or 6 she had to leave?
Well, this is the thing is he also said that he was with that woman. Like, that was while they were searching for the girls. So I don't know that he necessarily said he was with that woman when the girls disappeared, like while Tracy was at work. Now, there's also, and I didn't even put this in my outline, but just because we're on the topic, like I'll mention it. There are also some reports that I read, like that he picked Tracy up from work and dropped her back off at the apartment, and that he took her home. But then I saw it mentioned one place, and then nowhere else, literally nowhere else. And I'm like, I think if that were true, it would have been majorly reported upon.
Yeah.
But it's just, this case is like, there's a lot of conflicting reporting.
Which, why is that? Like, I know it's like a game of telephone because one person says this, then the next person gets this. But like with reporting, isn't that like kind of your job to like fact check before you publish anything?
I think it's just like, it depends on who you talk to too. Like everyone remembers everything differently.
Yes, like witnesses and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know, but it's like, and I also just feel like there's this case, everything I was reading, I read so many different articles on this, but they all were saying the same, and I'm going to go over all of it, but like they were all, if I felt like I was reading the same article over and over again, they, you know, but it also at the same time didn't feel very comprehensive to me. Like I guess some of the other stories that I've picked so far have been like super famous cases that have been like dug really deep into.
Yeah.
And this is like a very like infamous case in Chicago. Like I said, it was the largest manhunt in history at the time. But it also just seems like I haven't seen as much detailed information about this one. I found it difficult. A lot of the times I'll see conflicting reports and then I realize, oh, well, this one's from a witness who was actually there and not just a report of a report of a report.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that this is true. And I think with this one, it's really hard to decipher what's the more reliable source. So like I said, we're going to go through a lot of that. But this voicemail is a big point of contention in this case because, you know, like I said, according to Faith, it said, "This is Tionda, answer the phone, Jeff's at the door. Can I open the door? He wants to come in and take us to get a birthday cake." Now, mention of the birthday cake was interesting because Tionda and Diamond's sister, Victoria, it was her 8th birthday the next day. So whoever this was who was at the door must have known that it was her birthday coming up. So they must have known the family, you know, not some stranger.
Yeah.
Now,
did it say, I'm sorry if you said it already, but did it say how long Tracy and her Jeff were dating?
on and off for years.
Okay.
And we'll go back a little bit to talk about how long, but I don't know exactly how many years.
Okay.
But a long time,
Longer
on
than
and
like
off.
a couple months, because that's what I'm
Years.
like, how well do I know this guy?
Now, it is possible that if the word Jeff was said in this voicemail, if Tionda really did say Jeff is at the door, it is possible that she was referring to Jeff, Tracy's boyfriend. But it was also possible that they were referring to a different Jeff who lived in the apartment complex that the girls lived in.
This is off topic, but
Now-
every time I hear the name Jeff, do you think of, my name is Jeff?
No.
Oh my god. Every time I hear the name Jeff. Do you know what I'm
What
talking
is
about?
that?
I have no idea, but it's like, my name is Jeff. It's like this little Mexican guy. I don't know if it's a TikTok or a Vine, but I don't know where it came from.
Okay, well, you'll have to find it and we'll stitch it with this clip. My name is Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. So it's also possible that Tionda was referring to a different Jeff who lived in their apartment building and was familiar to the family. However, the family believes that she was referring to Tracy's boyfriend, Jeff, because apparently the neighbor Jeff actually like had this nickname that he always went by, and I don't know what the nickname was. And of
Okay.
course, this guy's name isn't really Jeff either. I changed both of
Yeah.
them. But he always went by this nickname.
He goes by a nickname and not Jeff.
Right. And basically Tracy was like, Tionda never would have called him Jeff. Like, I understand his first name is Jeff, but she never would have called him Jeff. So the family is adamant that they think she was
the
referring
Jeff.
to the boyfriend, Jeff.
Okay.
Now, this voicemail really gets me in this case. It really frustrates me because at this point in time, we do not know what happened to this voicemail. And again, with the conflicted reporting, some reports say only Faith heard it, Tracy's sister. Some people say the whole family heard it. Some people say police heard it. Some people say the FBI heard it. All we know is that it does not exist anymore. So some reports claim that the FBI does have the audio file and just won't release it, while others claim that it was accidentally deleted by the police somehow, but they don't say when or how or whatever.
When was this? What year was this?
This was 2001.
I was going to say, they got ways to get that back, but maybe not in 2001.
And the family is adamant, like, they turned it over to police.
Right.
But, and I mentioned this later, like, Tracy she did an interview with USA Today, like, years later, and she told them that she had never heard the voicemail for herself. But then I see reports where the family's saying, we all heard it, and we turned it over to police. But Tracy said she never heard the voicemail for herself.
Do you get the vibe that she's, like, trying to protect Jeff?
I don't know. It's just really okay. And let me back up a little bit about this voicemail. So Eric Firkenhoff and Grace Hawk reported for USA Today that according to the family, the voicemail was left around 8:17 a.m. They also reported that the family alleges that it was Chicago police who accidentally deleted the voicemail and not them. So they're saying police had it. Police heard it. They had it. They deleted it on accident. And if it doesn't exist, that's why. Now, if it was indeed left at 8:17 a.m., I find this really odd because Tracy said that she was trying to call the girls from her cell phone between 8 and 9 a.m. So how did she miss that call at 8:17? Like how I mean, I know it was probably a flip phone, but how did, like, if you go to call the girls, like, wouldn't you see that they had tried to call you? At least, like, would you see the missed call?
Yeah, but maybe she tried to call them and they didn't answer because they were at the door listening to him doing something.
Yeah, but, like, how would Tracy not notice that the girls had called her?
Well, because you said she was busy. She was busy at work. She had to go back to work.
But at around 9 a.m., it picked up. Between 8 and 9, she had tried to call the girls 3 times, and they didn't pick up. But they're saying that this voicemail was left at 8:17. So it's really confusing, and it's not fully making sense to me.
She went date, like, right? Because she was looking for the girls, and then her sister was the one that was like, well, did you check your voicemail?
Right. It was the day after.
Like, yeah.
So
how do you just miss a
Well,
yeah.
I think it's going to be explained here.
Okay.
This is all a little sus to me. So Tracy, again, she told USA Today she had never heard the voicemail for herself. Now, I don't know for sure, but from what I've read, it sounds like to me, Tracy's sister Faith was the only one to hear the voicemail before allegedly turning it over to the police. Now, again, there were some reports saying the family, but the way it was worded, I'm like, maybe the family, they didn't mean plural, like multiple people. Like it seemed like maybe there's just like someone in the family. Right. So the only person that I read for sure says they heard this voicemail for themselves was Faith. Now, also according to USA Today, there is no record of a call from the home to Tracy's cell phone that day. So did the voicemail ever exist?
That's fucked up, though.
Isn't that messed up?
Yeah.
Because if it's true, and
that
I'm
would
not
mean
saying
her
it's
sister
not,
then fabricated that, right? That's fucked up.
I'm not saying it's not true. Because I don't know how that all works.
Yeah, the circumstances, though, you know? Like,
Was
what
it
if
maybe,
she knew it was Jeff, but they didn't have any evidence? So she's like, oh, well, the girls left this voicemail, blah, blah, blah. Because I find it very hard to believe that a mom who was looking for her kids would not check her phone or see that there was a voicemail.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no way she missed that. Like,
right. I think that's weird.
Yeah.
And she's like calling all these people. Maybe she was calling them from the apartment phone. But this is again where I think in a lot of other cases, you would then see, because USA Today is reporting on the conflicting facts about the voicemail.
Yeah.
There's no so what police did is pull the phone records to see every outgoing call. I'm sure they did. But I can't find any reports of, did they call anyone from the house that day? Was it maybe because they had a family phone plan? Maybe they left it the girls accidentally called their aunt and left it on their aunt's voicemail and they just didn't know. I have no idea. But it's really bothersome because if this voicemail really did exist, I think we have our answer to
That's why I'm
who
like,
did something to the girls. But is it possible, and again, I don't want to like accuse anyone of anything, but is it possible that someone thinks they know who did it and maybe they could be right and they're trying to point police in the right direction? I don't know. It's really interesting. So
there's
now
many different avenues you could take with that one.
Now, USA Today actually did interview Jeff himself in 2021. And in the interview, he confirms that he did drop Tracy at work that morning, but he claims that he never returned to the apartment. And whoever Tionda was referring to in that voicemail, if it, is true, was not him. He said it must have been the other guy because did not come back there. I said nothing about a birthday cake.
Yeah, if I was guilty, I'd say that too. It must have been the other guy.
Yep.
Say the same thing.
If I was guilty,
20
I'd
years
say that.
though, damn. Like he's been holding it for 20 years if he did do it.
Now, investigators were not just looking, just at Jeff though. They actually brought in more than 100 local registered sex offenders to be questioned, which terrifying. But they had no luck. None of these people seemed to know anything or be involved at all. Now, they also interviewed members of the Bradley family, including Tracy, who they seemed to be looking at very seriously. In an interview, Tracy said that she had been interrogated by police for 22 torturous hours. They had even requested a handwriting sample from Tracy to compare to the note, which she initially refused to give, based on the advice of her attorney, she says. Okay. So this is another thing that it's like in police's mind, it kind of seems like she's not really cooperating with them. They say, we need your handwriting to whatever. She's saying no. Again, I think this can go back to a distrust of the police, and I think rightfully so. But, people like to point at this as like, well, why isn't Tracy complying and trying to find her daughters?
Right.
And I don't think that this shows that she isn't, in my opinion. So another piece of the investigation that police wanted to talk to Tracy about was surveillance footage from a nearby store that they had discovered 2 weeks after the girls went missing. The footage showed two little girls walking past the store, but was super, super fuzzy, and they couldn't identify the girls', faces or anything like that. The police shared the footage with the FBI, but they were unable to determine for certain whether or not the girls were Tionda and Diamond. So they then decided to take some still images from the footage and stop by Tracy's to ask her to view them and see if she could tell whether or not the girls in the footage were her daughters. But when they got to Tracy's apartment, she not only refused to look at the images, but also refused to even let detectives inside. However, it is reported that she did eventually schedule a time to go into the police station and view the footage, though we don't know what the outcome of this was, so it's still unclear to the public whether or not the girls in this footage were Tionda and Diamond, and these images, like the still images from the footage, have never been released to the public. So again, people are pointing at Tracy. Why aren't you, helping, look for the girls? And Tracy's explaining to the public that the reason that she might seem uncooperative is because she felt at that time like she was being treated like a suspect. So she didn't want the police in her home. That's why she said, I'll help you, but I'm going to do it at the station. Like, you're not coming in here. And again, I don't blame her.
I mean, I get her point where she's coming from, but at the same time, I would have been like, let's go to the station right now. I do not want you in my house, but let's go to the station right now. Was it like a further scheduled time? Like,
all I could find is that she scheduled a time to go in.
See, I don't know. I mean,
I know.
I don't have kids either, so I don't know. But I feel like if my dog was missing and they said they might have pictures of where she would have been, I'd have been like, first of all, I probably would have let them come in. But anyway, if I didn't want them to come in, I would have been like, yeah, let me follow you to the station. We'll do it there. Like, I'll be right there. Mm-hmm. I would want to know right fucking way.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree with you. I agree with you. I like
her lack of, like, urgency
It's-
is really getting to me.
It's so hard because, like, if Tracy has nothing to do with this, she doesn't know anything and whatever, I don't want to ever, like, lay in to a mother who has lost her children and has
Yeah.
no idea what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, I can't even fathom, like, that feeling. But at the same time, it is, like,
a lot of questions.
it's hard when you're looking at the situation, you're like, that's not how I would act.
Yeah.
But the way, I guess I'm trying to look at it as, like, I'm a privileged white girl, and so how I would act with the police is probably different than, like, than a
100%.
black woman who's a single mom with 4 kids trying to make sure nothing happens to her other kids aren't taken away, and she knows that she left the girls home alone. And I don't know, I'm trying to, like, have the
over 20 years ago. Like, that's fucking mind.
yeah,
Let alone.
I'm trying to have a look at it with an intersectional lens, looking at it from a different perspective, because I do look at it. I'm not going to lie. And, you know, I know that there's nothing that people love more than 2 white girls talking about race. But it is, you know, I look at the situation and I'm like, that's not how I would act.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how I would act. But it's different. And so you have to acknowledge those differences. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you know, even just because she's saying that's the reason why doesn't necessarily mean it is.
Yeah.
I guess where I'm kind of want to come from, I'm trying my best to come from, is I want to report this and I want to look at it unbiasedly as humanly possible. So I'm going to say, look, people criticize her for this. This is how I could see that perspective. This is what she says. This is how I can see her perspective. And, you know, I can give you my thoughts and feelings and whatever, but no one really knows. And that's really all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, people are going to be mad no matter how we say it or what we say. So,
And so that I say, fuck the haters.
fuck the haters.
Fuck the haters.
So, anyway.
I just want to put it out there. I don't think that she did it. I really don't. I'm just like looking at all the facts and being like, well, that's a little fishy. Like, I don't think she did it as of right now. I don't think that she had anything to do with it.
I guess, yeah. And where the fuck was I, Emily?
We were talking about.
Okay, she felt like she was being treated
I'm
as
gonna
a
schedule a
suspect.
time. Yes,
Which I think she was, and they should.
I think she was. They have to
that's
treat
what you
everyone
do.
like a suspect. Yeah,
You look at the parents when children go missing. You look at the spouse when
everyone close to them is a suspect,
right. So
or they should be.
now, even though people like to say Tracy wasn't cooperating and, you know, lay into her, she did agree to take a polygraph test, which she reportedly passed. Now, Jeff also took a polygraph, but we're not sure of the results of this. Why, you may
There's
ask?
a lot of not sures.
Because
man.
of conflicting reporting. So, according to USA Today, police sources claim that he passed the polygraph. But the Bradley family's private investigator named Pete Foster claims that the results were inconclusive.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I don't trust polygraphs anyway, so.
Me neither. Me neither. So in addition to Tracy, the police are obviously looking very closely at Jeff. They discovered that in the time leading up to the girl's disappearance, Tracy and Jeff had been arguing over whether or not Jeff was Diamond's biological father, which he denied for years.
Are any of the kids his?
Not
Or,
according
like-
to him. But no, the other kids are not his.
Okay, that's what I was
So 3 weeks before the girls went missing, allegedly, the results of a paternity test had concluded that Diamond was his daughter.
You are the father.
3 weeks before.
Oh, damn.
Now, I should note that in the interview that Jeff did with USA Today, he vehemently denies being Diamond's father or ever taking a paternity test at all.
Okay.
So I don't know. Again, I read this stuff and I go, well, what lab did the test?
Right. Like,
Where is this?
There's warrants that you can acquire to get this information.
But you can't find it.
It's so weird. The amount of, like,
But this is the thing is, like
the amount of
these 2 little
conflicting
girls
evidence.
go missing and they disappear. But it just seems like the more I'm like I was researching this and looking into it, the more I'm like, well, where did they do the paternity testing? It sounds like he wouldn't have agreed to take the paternity test. So how did she get his DNA? You know, where, like, I want some other record just besides just people saying that there was a
Just like word of
paternity
mouth,
test.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just word of mouth. And that's
We
all
need
I can
hot
find.
evidence.
And I'm not saying that that's all the police have. They might have more, but I can't find anything about it.
Well, they're keeping quiet about it.
But again, you know, Jeff saying he never took a paternity test. He's not Diamond's father, blah, 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 blah. I call bullshit. Now, it's also reported that in the days before the girls went missing, Jeff had led Tracy to believe that he was planning a camping trip for himself, Tracy, Tionda, and Diamond to take that weekend. Yet, when police looked into this, it seemed that he had done pretty much nothing to prepare for this trip. He didn't book any campsites. And again, they go missing Friday morning. They're supposed to go camping Friday night. He hadn't booked any campsites. He didn't really buy any supplies. Like there's no receipts, nothing that he bought. He did borrow a small amount of camping equipment from a friend, but it said that it was not nearly enough equipment for all four of them. So like he still should have been buying supplies.
But also, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like he's a guy and they don't prepare the best.
That, yeah,
you
that
know?
is true.
Like,
that is true. Men are idiots, and you can cancel me for that because they are.
can confirm.
Another odd thing about this was that, like I mentioned before, Victoria's birthday was the next day, yet she wasn't invited on this trip with them. It was just Tracy, Tionda, and Diamond. The other two girls weren't invited.
That's interesting. How old
Now,
were
they
they?
were
They were
staying-
older, right, though?
Well, one was older than Tionda, and one was a year younger than Tionda.
Oh.
So they were staying at their grandmother's house at the time. So maybe they just didn't want to go. But it just seems odd that like Tracy and the girls would be separate from Victoria
that's also
on her
weird
birthday.
that like they were home alone, but the other girls were at her grandma's.
Well, I guess like the grandma would take a couple of the girls for like, you know, a weekend or a week or whatever, just to help Tracy, you know, like relieve her load a little bit.
Yeah. I get that, but like, why? Like, did the other two girls not get along as well, or
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, wouldn't it just be like the older two girls and the younger two girls? It wouldn't be like the oldest in the middle or the middle and the youngest.
That is
like,
interesting.
That's weird. That like those two. I don't know.
That is
I don't know, that
interesting.
just
I'm not
crosses
sure.
my mind.
I'm not sure either.
Because
That
if
is a
you
good point.
If you were gonna have any of the girls babysit, wouldn't you want the oldest girl to babysit?
Yeah. Or wouldn't you have the youngest girls at the grandma's house?
Right.
And then have the oldest girls home alone?
Exactly.
Yeah, that is, I never thought about that. I wonder if it's just like they got along better or those girls were in trouble or something.
Or
I don't know.
maybe she did that because Tionda and Diamond were the only ones that were gonna go on the camping trip.
Yeah.
And they were the other two were already at their grandma's.
Maybe.
That's weird.
Now, so going back to Jeff, on July 12th, which was just 6 days after the girls went missing, a local newspaper article, which I have seen referenced everywhere, but I cannot find. But again, it's 23 years old. But this local newspaper article was published that reported that Jeff's home had been searched by police, which he agreed to. And they had also had canine units search the Dan Ryan woods, which were woods that were about 2 miles from Jeff's home that I guess he frequented, which I was about to say who frequents woods.
Yeah,
but then I was like, wait, I go to the metro parks all the time. So I guess you could say it's like the word
park,
woods.
though. That's not like woods.
Yeah, but it is woods.
But
the metro parks are
but
woods.
Like if you were like, I wouldn't refer to it as woods though.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he frequents the woods. That wouldn't refer to the park as I would say.
Yeah, but maybe that's the name of it. Like Bradley Reservation. You know what I mean? He frequents Bradley Reservation. You know, that's just, I don't know.
That is weird.
Anyway,
okay.
They find nothing. The doggos find nothing. I just lied straight to your face.
They did find something.
In the woods, the dogs flagged, quote, clothing and other items, unquote, which were turned over to the FBI for analysis, but they have never been publicly addressed. So it's unclear whether or not they seem to be connected to the girls in any way. We have no idea. Frustrating.
Great.
I'm assuming
Add
they're
it to
doing
the
that for a
list.
reason.
Add it to the fucking list.
I assume they're doing it for a reason, but it's frustrating.
It sounds like a lot of the things that weren't published would be very incriminating for Jeff if they were.
Well, that's why I'm thinking maybe they're keeping it close to the chest, because if he ever admits anything or like says something to some or anyone
Then
else,
they're like, oh, well, we already have
you know,
this
they
on
have
you.
this. They're like, well, there's no one that would know except the killer, like one of those things. Now, the article also stated that Jeff was extremely cooperative and even let them search his home without a search warrant. The article said that they didn't find much during the search of his house. Now, to the contrary, a report from the Black and Missing Foundation stated that police did find a few items of interest while searching Jeff's home. According to this report, investigators discovered a Home Depot receipt from the day after the girls went missing that showed he had purchased a set of gardening gloves, 42-gallon contractor bags, bleach, and neoprene gloves. They also found that 5 of the 42-gallon bags, and 42 gallons is the size, not the quantity. I don't know how many were in there, but 5 of these bags were missing from the pack, and the gardening gloves were not found anywhere in the home, and he couldn't produce them. So I have no fucking idea, but I think it's possible that the reason for these conflicting reports is that the first local newspaper article I was talking about that's referenced everywhere, maybe the police just didn't release this information at that time and they released it later down the road. And that's the reason for the conflicting information. The report from the Black and Missing Foundation that goes into the detail, it's a lot of detail for it to just be made up. I don't think it is. I think that these things were found in his home. That's my personal belief.
I don't fucking doubt it.
And I know this whole episode is a lot of me being like, it's either this or this, and I don't know, and blah, 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 blah. But I'm not going to just pick one when I don't know the answer. I'm going to try and give you both sides. And I know it's a little choppy to listen to a story this way, so I'm sorry. But anyway, now USA Today also reported in 2021 that, quote, 4 teenagers and 3 neighbors said they saw him setting fire to something in a 55-gallon drum in his backyard garage, about 10 miles south of the girls' home, then putting the barrel into his trunk and driving away, according to sources, end quote. Where the fuck are people getting these 55-gallon drums?
I was literally going to say the same thing. Where the fuck are they getting these?
Where are they getting?
Not from Home Depot.
You, at home, look at me. Where do you buy a 55-gallon drum?
I almost forgot that your phone was there, and I'm like, who the fuck are you pointing
Did
at?
that scare you?
Yeah, I was almost about to like, who's back there?
Where do you buy? If I've never in my life, I mean, I've probably seen them somewhere.
Oh, I've seen them for sure.
Where have
like,
you seen them? I can't even think of
like racetracks and stuff like that with like
where
oil
are people
drums.
getting these?
I have no idea. They just
do you think they're on
I've never
Amazon?
seen where they come from. Probably.
Amazon is everything.
Probably.
Check out my Amazon storefront where you can buy a 55-gallon.
Just all.
Okay, so I don't know where he got this 55-gallon drum. Anyway, but again, so I want to reiterate.
Serialkillers.com, dude.
This is 7 people are saying that they saw this. 4 teenagers and 3 neighbors said that they saw him setting fire to something in a 55-gallon drum in his backyard garage.
I mean,
putting the barrel into his trunk and driving away. So are 7 people making this up?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd believe him.
And I know it's teenagers.
I was gonna say if it was just the 4 teenagers, I'd be like,
But also at the same time, even if they were teenagers back then, it's now been 23 years. Maybe one of them would have come forward if it was a lie and been like, we were lying. But
right.
7 people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
And that's
that
like
don't know each other. Like, hey, do you wanna just tell them we found this or saw this? And like,
that's like a very It's not 7 people saying, yeah, I saw him pull out of the driveway at this time. Or
Right.
like I saw something that like
no, they all saw him light something on
You
fire
remember
in a
that.
drum and put it in his car and drive away.
you remember seeing your neighbor burn something in a 55-gallon drum because you're probably like, what is happening? And where did he get that
fucking
barrel?
get this drum?
Where did he get it?
Where do you come from? Like,
Anyway, so according to the police, though, Jeff denied burning anything in a drum or even
course
owning
he
a
did.
drum.
of course he did.
He denied even owning the drum. He was probably like, and
got it on the
again,
black market.
this is allegedly because I
know.
don't know if he said this, but in my mind, he looked at police and he was like, where the fuck would I get a 55-gallon drum?
Where would I get that?
I don't know.
Where do you get a 55-gallon drum?
I don't know. Now, he says at the time of the girl's disappearance, he was doing some renovations on his home. Okay, so sorry, I was misremembering. He said when the girls disappeared, he was doing renovations on his home. It was later in the day when they were searching for the girls that he says he was with the other woman.
Okay.
So at the time that they disappeared, he says he's doing renovations on his home, and he speculated that maybe the neighbors had seen him loading debris from the renovations in his car. Because he was taking
Likely.
debris. Yeah.
Likely story.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, where'd you dump the debris? I don't know.
So his neighbors did see him at his house, right?
Yeah. Because they're saying we saw him burning shit and putting it into the trunk and driving away with it. And he's saying, no, I didn't burn anything. I was just doing renovations. Maybe they saw me putting debris. And I'm like, that's very different looking than putting a 55-gallon
And
drum in
burning
your
something
car.
in the drum and then putting it in your car.
Yeah, because they're saying the drum's gone. Like
pretty
he put that
specific.
in the car. That's
Yeah.
what they're saying. So I don't think that you could just mistake that for debris. I don't know. Now, the newspaper article from 2001 directly contradicts this claim from like the 4 teenagers and the 3 neighbors. This article claims that a neighbor who spent the entire evening sitting outside that evening told police that he saw absolutely nothing out of the ordinary, did not see a fire. But also, there's no record of saying exactly what time the neighbor...
Right.
What
so
is
the
all
neighbor could have just
evening?
been out there like, okay.
The neighbor said, I
didn't
was
see
out there all
anything."
evening. I didn't see him do anything. I'm like, but what is all evening to you?
Right.
Because
Was that like 4 to 6 or like 3 to 6?
I don't
What's your
know.
evening,
Or was
sir?
it 2 p.m.
Time you go to bed.
Yeah. It's
Sounds
just
like an old man that like swatched the neighborhood.
it's just really this case is so frustrating
Yeah,
to
it
me
is.
because you can't
The facts.
Exactly.
Facts
It's
aren't
like
straight.
you don't know what's fact and what's fiction. And you really it's so hard to decipher in this
Yeah,
case.
these are the least straight facts I've ever.
And this is it just bothers me, and I hope that this like as technology and like technology is going to make better reporting and whatever, and I hope that these kinds of things just stop happening in the future.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we do know for certain is that there was a hair found on a blanket in the trunk of Jeff's car, and it was tested and determined to match a female from the Bradley family, meaning it could have belonged to Tionda, Diamond, or Tracy. Now, Jeff admitted to police that the hair was likely Tionda or Diamond's hair, explaining that he had recently taken the girls to the drive-in in the city and had hid them in the trunk to sneak them in for free. This
Been
was
there.
odd.
Been there though.
Yes, right? You're like, oh, at first you're like, kind of good excuse. He's like, oh, I took them to the drive-in in the city and I put them in the trunk, whatever.
Drive-ins are like very rare now. Like,
Well,
they're like endangered animals.
yes, and that's a good point because the investigators found this statement suspicious because he said he took them to the drive-in in the city. But the closest drive-in theater was in the suburbs, not in the city. So I want to know how far.
Yeah,
what's
like
the
what's the
distance?
vicinity? Because I feel like I live in a city, but it's a suburb.
I would love to know. Internet, someone, guys, I'm new at this. Someone has to be better at this I would love to one day when I'm rich and can hire a bodyguard to protect me from murderers. I would love to be an investigative reporter and call all these motherfuckers up and be like, and really
are
get
the
to the bottom of
facts?
stuff. I can't do it right now. I'm not calling anybody. I'm so scared. But I don't want to mess with any potential murderers at all. But how far apart were these theaters. Is this a one's 10 minutes away and one's 50 minutes away?
Yeah, like how
'Cause
out
that's
of the,
really-
how out.
Or is one 20 minutes away and
Right.
one's 25?
Right.
I don't know, and it's hard to find because I was trying to Google
Plus,
Maps
if they've
it, but you
been-
see what's there
Even
today.
if that's not true, I feel like he could have a piece of hair from them.
That's
He's been
true.
dating her mom on and off for years.
Right.
Like
That's true.
I mean,
Anyway, so today the case remains pretty much cold. In attempts to stir up new leads, the FBI is offering a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to the discovery of the girls. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has also put together multiple age progression images to show what the girls may look like today. Sadly, over the years, as these images have been released to the public and, put on the news, a few fucking assholes have come forward claiming to be Diamond or Tionda, providing the family with false hope. So the family actually has some Facebook pages dedicated to finding the girls, and I'll get to those in just a minute here. So they're obviously releasing this information. And in 2019, a Texas woman who uses the name Lele Rodriguez on Facebook claimed on social media, claiming on posts in a video, that she was Tionda Bradley. That same year, a different woman reached out directly to the Bradley family via Facebook, claiming to be Diamond, via the Facebook page where they're looking for these girls, saying, I'm
I feel
Diamond.
like I've heard this story before. Now that everything is
Neither of these girls, not true. It's not them. And I'm like, okay.
First of all, there's a special place in hell for people that create false hope and just want fucking money out of somebody trying to find their children or their family or somebody that they have lost.
And this is the thing is if these girls were like, I'm adopted, but I know that that's my birthday and I look just like this image. And I know that I was adopted from a place in Chicago in this area. And there's all these things that make me think that maybe it is me. And I want to, but when you're just posting a video on Facebook, I think I'm Tiana and whatever. I read nothing that showed that these girls had any reason to think besides that they thought that they looked like the age progressed images, which by the way, there's multiple of these. They all look so fucking different from each other. They're, you know what I mean? Because
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
You never know, man.
Anyway, it's just these girls frustrate me because I'm like, I don't think that they actually thought that they were either one of these girls.
That's what I'm saying. It's that's just fucked up.
And now, of all the tips that have come in over the years and all of the false hope that has been dangled in front of the family's faces, Tiana and Diamond's great aunt Shalia said, quote, "You get all excited. Well, could this be the one? Could this be the one? And you pray for answers. And, you keep your fingers crossed. And when you get that news that it's not, it's just, in a sense, kills you again." End quote. It's just, I can't even fucking imagine. Now, to this day, the family understands that the likelihood that the girls are alive is very slim, but they still hold out hope and they do everything they can to keep the girls' story in the media in hopes of finding answers one day. While they recognize that there is some circumstantial evidence making Jeff look pretty suspicious, they say he is not the only one on their radar or police's radar. According to the USA Today article, some members of the Bradley family claim that Tracy had actually given $5 to a relative to watch the girls at the apartment that morning. I read this nowhere else.
What?
But that's what some people, and again, it's very confusing because a lot of these articles are saying the Bradley family, and when you see the Bradley family, good on this family, they show up in fucking waves. You watch them being interviewed by the media. There's 15 of them, all standing together, united front. We're 20 years later, they're looking for the girls. So when they say members of the Bradley family, I'm like, okay, are you talking about the grandma, the aunt, whatever? Or are you talking about the second cousin?
The unit. Yeah.
Because
they're
where
talking
did
about
this
the
come
family
from?
as a unit.
I think this is nonsense. I don't know who said it, but I read nothing else besides this one article.
Yeah.
So Now, Tionda and Diamond's great aunt Shalia has kind of been the family's main spokesperson over the years, and she's been adamant that there is someone in the family who they believe knows more than they're saying, though she has never disclosed who she thinks this is. And I've never seen her be directly linked to that comment about someone was watching the girls that day.
Okay.
So I don't know that, even though they said that's a relative, I think those are separate theories, ideas, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that the great aunt, who's like in the media the most, is saying, I think someone in the family knows more than they're saying. And I want to know who that is so badly.
My gut is telling me it's either Tracy or Faith.
I think me and you are in alignment there, as we would say in the corporate world. Now, at one point, the family was looking at a Moroccan man who was rumored to be Tionda's father. And this was like a few years after the girls went missing, because some children had reported seeing the girls that morning at the playground with a light-skinned man in a trench coat. Now, I don't know how this vague description of a light-skinned man in a trench coat
turns into a Moroccan man who might have been Tionda's dad.
I think, I have no idea. Maybe, he's a Moroccan man, he's light-skinned, and maybe he was known for wearing a trench coat, and they're like, did he have something to do with this? I don't know. I don't know how this connection was made. But a local reporter was, I guess, enthralled into this theory that he actually traveled to Morocco to talk to the man and search for the girls, but he found nothing of substance there. Okay. So I think that's kind of been ruled out. Now, Shalia, the great aunt, like I said, has kind of dedicated her life to advocating for the girls, and just ensuring that they're not forgotten about and they're always being looked for. And if they are out there, that they know that they've been looking this whole time. Mm-hmm. She describes every day since the girls went missing as, quote, a living death. That's the words I can put to it, a living death. Now, in addition to her never-ending search for Tionda and Diamond, she also dedicates time to helping other families of missing children. Once, when she was helping her daughter move, she actually received an Amber Alert about a 10-year-old boy named Barway Collins who had gone missing. She then spent the next 3 weekends helping to organize search parties for the boy, one of which sadly discovered the boy's body in the Mississippi River after the police had directed the search party to look there once they saw that the dad's phone had pinged off a cell tower nearby the river. Barway's father, Pierre Collins, was eventually convicted for the murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison. After discovering the body, because Shalia was there with that search party when the body was discovered, and she saw the little boy being taken out of the river. And she says that she dropped to her knees and asked, "How could you let me find someone else's, but not my own?"
Oh, that gave me chills.
Isn't it? That's
sad.
And then I can't imagine seeing something so traumatizing like that, like this little boy's body floating in the river, and just wondering, like, is that what happened to my great nieces? Like, can't imagine.
Well, I'm sure that's the reason why she was doing all of that, like to help other people if she couldn't find her own family. She's probably hoping, and then that, I can't even imagine how she was.
This woman is amazing. Look up Shalia Bradley Smith. She's amazing. Like, she's really, when I say she's dedicated her life, like, she's lost jobs over this. She like specifically takes certain jobs that she knows, like, she can be out looking for these girls and like look and talking to the media, and she's done, and she was really a big part of finding Barway Collins. But that's not the only, family she's helped. She's done a ton of other work to like help support families of missing children. Yeah. Now, she did create the Facebook pages too. So there's two. There's Missing Diamond and Tionda Bradley, and it's all one word. And then there's Help Find Diamond and Tionda Bradley. So we are going to follow those Facebook pages with our page, and you can follow with your page. That would be great. To keep the story alive. Now, there's also a vigil held every year on the day of the girls' disappearance, which again is July 6th. Now, I briefly mentioned it before, but just to kind of give you an overview of like where we're at now. So the family did hire that private investigator named Pete Foster, who I think is doing all of this work pro bono, it seemed like, which is just like, fuck yeah, Pete Foster. But he's kind of said to the media that without someone coming forward with more information, he doesn't know whether or not this case can ever be solved.
They have like nothing.
Yeah. Now, Shalia also explains that the reason she's so adamant that she thinks someone in the family knows more than they're saying is really based on the circumstances of the disappearance. So she's like, look, it was early in the morning. This person must have known that the girls would be home alone while Tracy was at work. So she's like, who would know their schedule that detailed? Now, again, I have no idea at all, not even an inkling, which family member Shalia might be referring to. But what I will say is I'm just going to tell you my thought process. And again, my opinion, not facts. I kind of thought at first that it might be Tracy. I'm kind of thinking she's like, okay, maybe Tracy's protecting Jeff, or, she has something to do with it, or I don't know, she knows something. But I kind of don't think that anymore. And this is why, because I have this quote from Shalia when she's talking about how Tracy has like been treated in the media, and she says, quote, "You have people saying, well, the auntie does more than the mom, and I'm saying, what's the difference? We're family," end quote. So, she's basically out there saying, look, she's the spokesperson because that's the type of person she is. And just because she's the spokesperson for the family and really like spearheading everything doesn't mean that Tracy's not looking for the girls. To me, it kind of just sounds like it might be the case where, okay, Tracy's daughters have disappeared. She's still a single mom. She still has to support two young girls who lost their sisters. So I kind of have a feeling, again, I have no idea, but I kind of have a feeling that Shalia is just more active in the press because it's not because she cares more than Tracy, but maybe just because she has more time, she has more means, she has more mental, emotional energy that like Tracy doesn't have. So again, let's look at both sides. In regards to the scrutiny that she has received in the media, Tracy said, quote, "I'm not a bad mom. I know who Tracy Bradley is. I know who I am, and I don't let that reflect on me or my kids or my life because I'm still a good mom," end quote. This July marks 23 years since Diamond and Tionda went missing. As of July 2024, Tionda Bradley would be 33 years old and Diamond would be 26.
That's crazy.
Let's just think about like if your life ended at 10 and you would be our age today.
When I was 10, I was like the most excited about a trampoline, Like,
yeah. Now, Tracy's sister, Faith, still looks for the girls diligently, posting on social media sites, talking to reporters, etc. She loved those girls, and she was especially close with Tionda. Of the girls, Faith said, quote, "We'll never be the same until the day they come back and return to our family. All of our hearts will always feel empty, always. As for Tionda and Diamond, the search, we're going to continue to search for you till the day I die," end quote. And that's why it's like when you watch these interviews with the family, because when you're reading all the facts and the reports and whatever, you feel so disconnected from them and you're like, well, that's kind of suspicious. But when you see them talk about it, you're like,
it just like breaks your heart. 'Cause
yeah.
You're like, they're gonna, I mean, I really fucking hope that they find whatever happened to them. They find them and they're fine. But my gut says that they're not fine. And like, they're not, I just hope that they find, and whoever did this, I hope just comes forward. Just like, her entire family is going to die without knowing what happened to her. Or knowing what happened to them.
I just can't even imagine. And like the sisters too, like imagine if your brother was just gone at 10 and you never saw him again and you have no idea what happened to him.
I mean, if that was me, I would never want to have kids.
Well, it's funny because the sisters talk about like they talk so much about how like the disappearance of Tionda and Diamond caused so much fear for them, not only as they grew up because they were always worried that the kidnapper would return to take them, but they also said it had a major impact on their relationships with their own children because they basically were like, we're so overprotective because
I'm
we're
sure they
so
were, like,
scared of
helicopter
something
parents.
happening to our kids.
Yeah,
And I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I don't blame
them.
them. They also stated that Victoria, whose birthday was the day after the girls went missing, has not celebrated her birthday since.
Oh, that's so sad.
Doesn't that break your heart?
Oh,
It breaks my heart.
that is so sad.
So
Now that you say that, the fact that Tiana and Diamond were going to go on this camping trip without their other siblings and one of them was having a birthday the next
isn't
day.
that weird?
Super weird.
It's weird to me.
That is very weird. I don't know. There's so many unanswered. Like this case is like not one of my favorites, just because it's like there's so many unanswered questions.
Isn't it?
There's so much conflicting evidence. Nobody knows what there's nothing. Nobody knows anything. Like how do two young girls under the age of 12 just vanish and nobody saw anything? They lived in an apartment, didn't they? Dude, I'm nosy as fuck.
By the
How
way,
did their neighbors not
I
see
also
anything?
read, I thought I had put it in here. I read too that the apartment building had cameras too. But
That's what I'm saying.
Wait,
It's like,
wait.
what happened to all this evidence that could have been, but nobody knows what happened to
apartment
it.
building cameras had been like pushed up. So they were like facing the ceiling. So no one saw anything. But they went back through footage and it looked like they had been like that for months. So they don't think it was related. They think there was just like, I don't know, someone was dealing drugs
For
or there was
months?
some sort
How
of.
do they not notice? They never
Because
fucking check.
you know, I feel like they don't check it unless something goes awry, you know? And so it's just, I don't know, it's interesting, but.
There's so much unfortunate things that like could have been like, oh, well, here is this person, like the camera to the fucking the store that said that it could have seen them and nobody ever knows what happened, like if it was them or not.
And
on that note,
I
what
thought
time is
this
it?
was going to be so short.
I knew that was going to happen.
But
I was going to say that, but I was like, maybe.
Well, this one was a lot less pages because I feel like I couldn't find information.
Yeah.
This was like not half 60% as long as the Matahari episode, like in pages. But I think we were just like, why
Because we're
doesn't
talking back and
this
forth. Yeah.
make sense? Anyway, all right. In that case, it's late. Me and Emily are sleepy.
We'll go tired.
Court is adjourned. Bye.
Bye.